I was driving past my son-in-law's house and decided to check on him. But when I saw my wife's car at the gate, a shiny silver Lexus that should have been in our garage, my heart clenched with a premonition of trouble. Something's wrong, I thought, quietly. I approached the window, trying not to give myself away. What I heard inside destroyed and changed my world forever. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and tell us where you're listening from in the comments. When the old fool finally signs the papers, we'll have everything we planned for. Margaret's voice drifted through the half-open window like poison in my veins. I sat frozen in my car outside Brianna's house, keys still dangling from the ignition. Just 5 minutes earlier, I'd called my daughter to surprise her with dinner plans. "Sorry, Dad, I'm not home." "But Dan's there working on some case files," she'd said cheerfully. Yet here was Margaret's silver Lexus parked brazenly in the driveway. I killed the engine and approached the window on trembling legs. Through the gap in the curtains, I saw them clearly. My wife of 25 years lounging on my daughter's couch like she owned the place. And Dan, leaning against the bookshelf with that smug expression I'd grown to despise. "The timeline's perfect," Dan was saying, his lawyer voice crisp with satisfaction. "File in June, claim irreconcilable differences. With the new Iowa statutes, Margaret's entitled to half of everything acquired during marriage, plus spousal support for life." Margaret laughed, that tinkling sound I'd once found charming. "The construction business alone is worth $12 million. Add the rental properties, the vacation home, the investments, we're looking at nearly $20 million total." My hands shook as I fumbled for my phone, hitting record just as Dan continued his legal dissertation. The beautiful part is his trusting nature. Alan has no idea we've been documenting his assets for months. Bank statements, property deeds, business valuations, everything's already copied. He gestured toward a manila folder on the coffee table. He practically handed us the keys to his kingdom. 2 years of playing the devoted wife, Margaret said, examining her manicured nails. Pretending to care about his boring construction stories. Nodding sympathetically when he worried about payroll. God, the man actually believes I love him. A twig snapped under my foot. Both of them froze mid-conversation, heads turning toward the window like startled deer. I pressed myself against the brick wall, heart hammering against my ribs, sweat beading despite the April chill. "Did you hear something?" Margaret's voice carried a note of suspicion. "Probably just the neighbor's cat," Dan replied. "You're paranoid. Can you blame me?" She snapped. "If Alan discovered this before we're ready?" "He won't," Dan said confidently. The man couldn't spot a conspiracy if it wore a neon sign. His laughter held nothing but contempt. "By September, you'll be divorced, wealthy, and free to do whatever you want. With whoever you want." I forced myself to stay hidden until their conversation resumed, my phone capturing every venomous word. When I finally crept back to my car 15 minutes later, my entire world had shifted on its axis. 25 years of marriage, reduced to a legal strategy session between my wife and son-in-law. That folder on the coffee table haunted me. Months of planning, documentation, preparation. While I'd been working 16-hour days to build our future, they'd been systematically mapping its destruction. I sat in the driver's seat, staring at my hands wrapped around the steering wheel. The same hands that built a construction empire from nothing. The same hands that had provided every comfort Margaret enjoyed, that had walked her down the aisle when her own father refused to attend our wedding. Margaret's words echoed in my mind. The man actually believes I love him. The worst part? Until 30 minutes ago, I absolutely did. The front door opened just as I reached for my keys. Margaret emerged first, her designer handbag swinging casually at her side. Dan followed, adjusting his tie with that same smug precision. Neither expected to find me sitting in my car. The shock registered on Margaret's face like a slap. "Alan?" Her voice climbed an octave. "What are you doing here?" I forced my expression into something resembling normal, though my pulse thundered in my ears. "Just finished a job site inspection nearby," I lied smoothly. "Thought I'd stop by and see Brianna." Dan stepped closer to Margaret, his lawyer instincts kicking in. Those pale gray eyes studied my face, searching for cracks in my story. "She's not here," Margaret said quickly. I was helping Dan organize some legal documents for a client. The lie rolled off her tongue like it had been rehearsed. Oh? I said lightly. I thought you'd be at work until 6 today. Didn't you mention something about the Henderson proposal this morning? A flicker of panic crossed her features. I left early. Headache. Sorry to hear that, I said evenly, then turned to Dan. Working on an interesting case? Asset division, he replied before catching himself. For a divorce client? Very complex financial situation. The irony would have been amusing if it weren't destroying my life. Margaret's eyes darted between us. How long have you been here, Alan? Just pulled up. Why? No reason, she said with a painted smile. You seem tense. Everything okay? The woman who'd plotted my financial ruin was asking about my well-being. I almost laughed. Long day, I muttered. You know how it is. Dan's hand rested on her lower back. A gesture too familiar, too intimate. How long has that been happening? I wondered. Good timing, then, I said, pulling out my phone to check the time. Their eyes flicked to the screen, just as I wanted. I should head home. Dinner won't cook itself, Margaret forced a laugh. I'll be along shortly. Just need to wrap up a few things here. Take your time, I said, then paused as if remembering something. Oh, Margaret, Dr. Patterson's office called about rescheduling your physical. Something about a conflict with your work schedule. Her face went blank for a split second. Then she recovered quickly. Must be a mix-up. I'll call them later. No worries, I said softly. These things happen. I slid into the driver's seat, heart pounding. See you both later. As I backed out of the driveway, I watched them in my rearview mirror. They stood frozen until my car disappeared around the corner, then immediately moved closer together, heads bent in urgent conversation. The three-way dance of deception was complete. They suspected I might have overheard something. I knew they were planning to destroy me, and all of us were pretending everything was perfectly normal. What they didn't know was that my phone held 43 minutes of crystal-clear audio that would change everything. His abusive patterns, not defensive strategy. More rustling of papers. The sound of a legal mind shifting into full attack mode. I'll need you to document instances of emotional abuse, financial control, intimidation tactics, Dan said calmly. Think back over your marriage. Anytime Alan made financial decisions without consulting you. Anytime he questioned your spending. Anytime he used money to influence your behavior. Margaret hesitated. That's going to be difficult. Alan's never been controlling about money. If anything, he's been too generous. Dan leaned back, eyes narrowing. Then we reframe generosity as manipulation. His providing for you becomes evidence that he created financial dependency to maintain control. Every gift, every luxury, every comfortable lifestyle choice all become proof of his systematic isolation strategy. The breathtaking audacity of it was impressive in scope. They were planning to weaponize 25 years of Alan's dedication and generosity, twisting every act of love into evidence of abuse. What about Brianna? Margaret asked quietly. She's not going to automatically take my side. Her psychology training makes her skeptical of everything. That's perfect, Dan replied, satisfaction curling in his tone. Brianna's hesitation to support you becomes evidence of how thoroughly Alan has manipulated family dynamics. We'll position her psychology training as something Alan exploited, to turn his own daughter against her mother's emotional needs. Margaret's voice trembled. You want to make our daughter a witness against her father? I want to save your financial future, Margaret. Brianna's professional training means her testimony carries extra weight. If she expresses any concern about family dynamics, we frame it as expert psychological opinion, confirming Alan's manipulative patterns. The plan was elegant in its comprehensive evil. Turn the daughter's professional skepticism into evidence against the father. Reframe every act of love as manipulation. Transform defensive financial protection into proof of abuse. Monday morning, Dan continued. I'll file for emergency restraining orders, preventing further asset movement, demanding immediate spousal support of $15,000 a month, and temporary exclusive occupancy of the marital home. By Wednesday, we'll have him painted as an abusive husband who needs court supervision to prevent financial intimidation. And if he fights back, we escalate. Harassment charges if he contacts you directly. Stalking allegations if he investigates us. Emotional abuse claims if he questions our accusations. Dan's voice carried cold satisfaction. The beauty of domestic abuse law, he said, is that denial becomes evidence of guilt. The harder he fights, the more controlling he appears. Margaret's laughter held no warmth. Poor Alan, he has no idea what he's unleashed. 25 years of playing the trusting husband. Time to teach him that nice guys finish last. They spent another hour coordinating stories, setting up secret communication channels, and preparing for what Dan called total legal warfare. Every conversation, every interaction, every financial transaction, all to be documented as evidence of Alan's systematic abuse. The conspiracy had evolved from a simple asset grab into a campaign of character assassination and designed to destroy not just Alan's finances, but his reputation, his relationship with his daughter, and his standing in the community he'd helped build for 3 decades. As Margaret left the office at 9:30 p.m., her phone buzzed with Dan's first strategic text. Remember, you're not an angry wife anymore. You're a terrified victim, finally finding courage to escape your abuser. The war had officially begun. Saturday morning, Calf Luna Bistro Margaret and Brianna sat at their usual corner table, private, cozy, perfect for confidential conversations, but this time, Margaret wasn't a mother seeking support. She was a manipulator, playing the role of a victim in need of professional help. Brianna, I need to talk to you about your father, Margaret began, voice trembling just enough. I think something's wrong with him. Mentally. Brianna set down her coffee cup, shifting into therapist mode. What kind of wrong, Mom? Controlling behaviors, paranoid thinking, Margaret said softly. He's been restricting my access to our accounts, claiming it's for security reasons. Yesterday, he completely froze me out. I couldn't even buy lunch. Brianna leaned forward, cautious. Mom, financial control can be a form of domestic abuse, but it can also be legitimate financial management during business transitions. What's Dad's explanation? Margaret's lips tightened. He claims it's routine account security. But Brianna, I've been married to him for 25 years. This isn't routine. This is punishment. Punishment for what? Margaret hesitated. She couldn't reveal the conspiracy. I think he suspects I've been questioning our marriage. Maybe he's trying to intimidate me into staying, Brianna sighed. Mom, are you saying Dad is financially abusing you to prevent divorce, or that you're considering divorce and he's protecting assets? The question sliced too close to the truth. Margaret deflected. I'm saying your father's behavior has changed. As a psychologist, I hoped you could explain it. As a psychologist, Brianna said carefully, I'd say major behavioral changes usually have identifiable triggers. What happened 3 days ago? Margaret's heart raced. Her daughter's logic was cutting through the performance. Are you asking for psychological advice? Brianna pressed. Or are you asking me to take sides in a marital conflict? Margaret froze. Her plan to turn her daughter into a weapon had failed. Meanwhile, Coal Construction Headquarters Jim Morrison's call came at 10:15 a.m. Alan, you'll want to hear this. Dan Thompson's got problems with the State Bar Association. 3 subcontractors filed complaints, non-payment. He took their money but never paid the trades. Alan's mind went into overdrive. How serious? Serious enough for a hearing next week. He's scrambling to find 23 grand to cover it, the exact amount Alan already knew Dan owed. By 4 p.m., Alan had filed a formal complaint with the Bar Association, complete with evidence from multiple contractors. Dan's career, the foundation of his entire conspiracy, began to crumble. By evening, Dan was seen leaving his office, carrying boxes of files. The conspiracy was collapsing. 2 days later, Brianna drove to her father's office, determined, calm, but burdened. Dad, she said, sitting across from him. Mom asked me to evaluate your mental state. She wants me to support her claims of emotional and financial abuse, but I think she's been manipulating both of us. Alan looked at her silent. Then he pressed play on his phone. Margaret's voice filled the room. When the old fool finally signs the papers, we'll have everything we planned for. Brianna listened, stone-faced, as her mother mocked their family. When the recording ended, she whispered, "She tried to use my professional ethics as a weapon." "I'm sorry you had to hear that," Alan said quietly. "I'm not," she replied. "I choose truth over loyalty." She stood resolute. "And I'm ending my marriage, too." The fallout by the weekend, Margaret's world imploded. Her social circle turned cold. Calls went unanswered. Her friends whispered. Invitations vanished. Meanwhile, Alan's reputation soared. The community respected how he handled betrayal with dignity and truth. Dan lost his biggest clients. Within weeks, his law license was suspended. Margaret's desperation grew. She met with new lawyers demanding they go after Alan. But without evidence, there was nothing to go after. By the time the restraining order hearing arrived, Alan's team was ready. In court, Margaret painted herself as the victim. But then Alan's attorney pressed play, the same recording that exposed every lie. When the courtroom fell silent, the judge asked, "Mrs. Cole, do you have any response?" She didn't. The restraining order was dismissed with prejudice, and the judge referred the case for perjury investigation. 2 weeks later, the divorce was finalized. Margaret received nothing but the clothes she packed. Dan lost his license permanently. Brianna filed for divorce and rebuilt her life, dedicating her practice to helping families heal from manipulation. Alan rebuilt his business and his peace. His home was quiet now, but honest. No more lies, no more performances, just truth. Margaret had been right about one thing. Alan really had believed she loved him. Now, he finally knew the difference between love and performance. Outro, voiceover prompt. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below. To hear the next story, click the box on the left. Thank you for watching.